Well, a terrifying situation still unfolding in Israel after a weekend filled with violence and chaos as the Hamas terror group stormed several regions, taking hostages and killing hundreds of people. Our Cityline expert Shai DeLuca was there, huddling in bomb shelters as it happened, and he joins me now live with more. Shai, we're so happy that you are back here at home, safe and sound in Toronto, but it wasn't always the case. A little bit dicey there for you earlier this weekend. Where were you, first off, when the Hamas attack began?
We were actually in Tel Aviv. We were back home. I was back home for visiting family, as I do throughout the year, but specifically for a wedding. Saturday morning, we were woken up to the red alerts, and we were in Tel Aviv as our building shook and a rocket fell 2 streets from where we were.
And then the process is getting down to a bomb shelter and trying to figure out exactly what's happening. That must have been just terrifying, knowing that this was happening and you really didn't know what was going on at the time. What was it like when you found out about this surprise attack and the level of attack that Hamas had launched?
You know, you have, if you live in the southern part of Israel, you have 15 seconds from the moment the red alert starts to be able to get yourself into a bomb shelter. In the center part of Israel where we were, it's a little bit longer. We were asleep. This was early in the morning, at 6 in the morning. I hadn't heard it at the beginning. So really what woke me up was the shaking of the building once the rocket fell. I quickly woke Ricky up, and I said, quickly get dressed. There was no bomb shelter in our apartment building. Our apartment building is an older building. We had to run to a public shelter in the neighborhood. As we were running to the shelter in the neighborhood and as we were huddling in the shelter, our phones just started ringing with alerts of terrorists that had crossed from Gaza into Sderot, which is a community in the southern part of Israel. We were seeing images and live feeds of mothers streaming trucks of Hamas terrorists coming into Sderot, aiming rifles, guns, M16s. I mean, I was in the army, RPGs, heavy weaponry coming into these cities, aiming them at buildings. We didn't know what was going on. It was like it was like kind of a movie. The next things that we were seeing were the images that Hamas was actually putting up on their accounts and promoting in different social media accounts of the dead bodies, gunning down grandmothers in the street who were walking. It was Saturday morning. It was a holiday in Israel, so it was a quiet, somber morning for the most part until this happened. And you had, older people who were up early in the morning doing their morning walk who were just gunned down in the streets.
Oh, my goodness. You mentioned being in the Army. You were a sergeant in the IDF, in the Israeli Defense Forces, and you've retired now. But you looking at the images that you saw, especially the images of soldiers who were taken captive as well, what was that like for you?
I saw that morning, we were getting feeds. I don't know if you guys have seen them here. I know certainly now that I'm back here seeing what you guys see, a lot of the images are blurred and, they're a little easier to see than what we were seeing, the direct images. I saw a body of a soldier being dragged out of a car whose head had been blown half off and then beaten as they paraded his dead body through the streets of Gaza. It was one of the most horrific things I had ever seen. However, it was not the first time I had seen, Hamas terrorists do this in Gaza. It is part and part of what a terror organization does. It is shocking. And as shocking as it is, it never ceases to, amaze me, the amount of hate that someone can have for another human being, especially desecrating a dead body as they pull it out of a car and beat it and parade it around in Jubilee.
It is awful to even hear of these images, let alone seeing them, firsthand. You have returned home, and thank goodness you are home safe. And the process of you even trying to get back home, there are a lot of Canadians who are trapped right now. How is it that you managed to get home? We're hearing about airlines just canceling flights to that region completely. What was it like for you to get back home?
Our scheduled flight was scheduled to come back Saturday. That was always our scheduled flight. When we were in the shelters, we were told that the airport was closed, and Ricky and I thought, well, we'll have to wait it out. there was a lull, and all of a sudden they said the airports are open, the airspace is fine. We had booked a cab the night before. The cab company called us and said, no, the airport said that everything is back to normal. We're going, even though the red alerts were continuing to go in the southern part of Israel. Mm-hmm. As we got into the cab, we were driving, and then the radio was on, as you can imagine, every second. And I literally mean every second, a new alert was coming out about bombs and rockets that were being sent to different parts of the country. We, of course, were listening for where we were. The minute we heard Lod, which is where the airport is, which is just outside of Tel Aviv, the taxi had to stop. We had to get out of the cab. We had to, on an on-ramp, just going up to the airport, take cover on this on-ramp. As we got onto the back into the cab and back to the airport, the police opened our cab door, ushered us into the shelter in the airport, where we stood for half an hour, approximately half an hour, until the threat for the airspace in Lod and in Tel Aviv had dissipated. Once we finally did get onto the plane, I've taken off many times throughout my lifetime. I have never seen a plane, and this is a large plane. We're not talking about a small plane where the incline, when you take off, you can feel the incline. Larger planes, it's the usual gradual feeling. We were already told on the tarmac that we were going to have to change our flight path because of the rockets. When we took off at a very steep incline to what I was normal to what I had become accustomed to. And you just sit in the plane looking out the window, looking for a flash of light, hoping that a rocket is not going to come and hit the plane that you are on. You know the plane is climbing to get out of rocket range, but you're just white-knuckling it and hoping that you're just getting out of that range.
And after all that anxiety and fear as you're leaving, you were able to touch down at home and also be at the Israeli Solidarity rally that was held at Melasma Square last night. There's such a juxtaposition in feelings when you deal with that as you're taking off and then come home to see that group of thousands gathering there. Shai, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We truly do appreciate it, and we're so happy that you're back home safe.
Thanks, Tammie.
All right. Shai DeLuca, once again, here in Toronto. It is 7:15 right now. More news coming up at 7:30. For now, we're going to say good morning to Meredith Sid and Devo Brown as well. Morning, guys.
Morning, Tammie.